want to talk to you about just food in general. And I know some of you are really into food, raw food. You know, those of us that are part of Tower Garden and Juice Plus, and we're already pushing towards that. But Chef Jen wants to bring to you even more about cooking with these things and getting these pre and probiotics into your diet, not just taking them, but getting them into your diet. And sometimes we have to jumpstart them too with our gut as well. You know, with all the things we've done to them, we've made our gut very, what's the term I want to say, susceptible to lots of different things.
Susceptible is a very good word.
Yes. As a result of the things we're doing to our bodies, and it starts with the foods we're eating. So I'm going to introduce Chef Jen, and she can tell you more about herself and all that she does. And
well, introduce yourself. Right with our camera going.
Right.
You have to introduce yourself.
Well, I know most everybody.
Yeah, the people on the camera
That's
don't
true.
know.
That's right. Hi, my name is Troy Albright, and I'm a registered pharmacist. And I've been pursuing this field of hormone therapy, and we do a lot of the bioidentical hormones for men and women. And as a result, we've been doing lots of consults, and we're seeing that it starts with the foods we're eating are affecting our health. And again, you're talking to somebody from a farm. And so in Minnesota, we grew all our own food. And you know, the dirt was black back then instead of this red clay stuff we have here in Arizona. And
I think Arizona's always had this red clay. We just moved.
Just moved it, okay. And so that's why I pursued even the Tower Garden, going vertical farming. Because I wanted to control what was being sprayed on our foods. I wanted to use non-GMO seeds. So it's sort of my pursuit of my own health along with my kids. And I'm learning to cook and use more things that are just more on the raw basis, because it used to be cook it in butter and douse it with olive oil and all those kind of things. So I've really learned to cook things better. And as a compound pharmacist, we can control all the ingredients. So as we go down this pathway, we can jumpstart our guts with different probiotics. But again, it starts with the foods we're eating. And there we go. Explain a little bit more.
That's good.
Okay.
And I'm Chef Jennifer, and I'm an all-organic chef. So the only thing I buy, cook, or cater with any of my customers is all-organic food. Non-GMO, no pesticides, pastured, eggs, chicken, grass-fed beef, pastured grass-fed beef. So I really make sure that it's really easy to make good food when you have good ingredients to start with, right? So also unlike traditional traditional chef or so on, I do not cook with small little itty-bitty vegetables, and I don't saute them till all of the nutrients are gone out of them. I basically give them like a couple of minutes, and that's all they get. They're really crispy, they're really nice when they when they come out of the pan, because I really want to make sure it's as whole as possible and has as many nutrients. And even, you know, my fiance he's Italian, and he's like, we peel all of our potatoes. I'm like, you're not peeling my potatoes. My potatoes have the peel on because they have the nutrients in it, right, and the fiber. So I thought it would be a great idea at the beginning of the year, and Troy and I talked about this, to do a pre and probiotic class, because a lot of people do know what probiotics are. You go to the store, you buy probiotics. The more millions of probiotics or billions of probiotics you have in the capsule, the better they are for you. But they really don't understand how to actually nourish the probiotics you already have in your gut, right? And so I really thought, so I made you guys a tip card. I'm big on tip cards, so you have 2 of them actually here, because I had done a class here 3 months ago, I want to say, Troy, on the 10 foods to help balance your blood sugar, and there's a lot of fibrous, nice foods in there for that too, and we can go through that at the end. But we really, to kind of define for everybody what a pre and probiotic are, and how many grams of prebiotics you should have a day, as well as how to measure how much fiber is in the food you're eating, so you can determine whether or not you're getting good prebiotic in your gut, so that the bad bacteria that is already there has something to eat, so that the good bacteria exists and lives and survives. So maybe you want to talk a little bit about how probiotics and prebiotics work a little bit from a pharmacy perspective, and I can do it from a food perspective. That's my
Sure.
You're the
Sure.
science guy, and I'm the feed the science guy.
There you go. I love to be fed and cooked for. So my dad was an incredible chef, and he loved me. I remember we'd open the fridge and there's nothing in here. Next thing you know, we'd have sauerkraut, which I didn't like, and I wish I would eat more of it, because again, another great food that we could be eating. But for those of us that have really messed with our gut, because again, I'm from Minnesota, and what did we eat? cheese, potatoes, meat. Corn was our vegetable. And so I grew up really having a hard time just with gut. I've always had digestion issues. But in fact, if I were anything metal, I'd always have a reaction. So it just showed how acidic. And so as I started this process of trying to find out what's wrong with my own system, it was about 35, and it's when our kids were born. My daughter was born, and I was excited. You know, that's 22 years ago now when she was born. And first of all, the intern was actually delivering our first child, and he's just standing there nonchalant, and the on-call doctor's there, and I'm like, isn't he going to catch her? You know, what's going on here?
I thought the same thing when my kids were being born.
It was crazy. And
it's still a little too far away.
So the doctor goes to the intern, you need to get ready to catch the baby. She's coming. And all of a sudden he looks and the head's crowning and he barely got his hands down there, and I'm freaking out as a newborn, new father. But she had all these red dots on her. And I'm like, what the heck is that? And the doctor, that's normal, that's just eczema, you know, that's normal. Babies are born that way all the time. I'm like, that's not normal. So we started pursuing what we were eating that was causing that. A couple of years later, our son was born and he has beautiful olive skin. And so again, changing our diet really mattered. So as we're going down this pathway, it's not that we're becoming more vegan, it's just we're cutting things out that we know we can't digest. So I love red meat, but I don't digest it. And it makes me very acidic. Coffee's another one. I love coffee, but I drink coffee, it messes with my gut flora. And so some of us that have really bound up our guts, you know, it's as you heard other doctors, there's a Dr. Mitra Ray that I've heard talk, she's talking about how your gut is your second brain. So if that gut's not healthy, the rest of the body's not going to be healthy. You're not absorbing nutrients. So there's really targeted specific probiotics out now. So for those of us that really need to jumpstart our gut, we have those kind of things. There's 30 billion units, there's 100 billion. There's even even for some of my paraplegic and quadriplegics, we're using the 350 billion units because they're constantly getting infections, urinary tract infections and things like that. We need to jumpstart their guts because they've been put on so many antibiotics. And that was the thing, fortunately, the pediatrician we went to didn't believe in antibiotics. Here you have a medical doctor, an MD, who didn't believe in prescribing antibiotics. And that, you know, I'm a pharmacist and I was very traditionally schooled. I could not believe that. I'm like, he has an ear infection, come on, let's give him an antibiotic. He's like, no, let's see if we can dry it up, let's run a humidifier, or let's do these alternative things, a neti pot. I'm like, okay, what's wrong with this guy? But we learn that as we go down through this whole pathway, the foods we're eating are affecting our health. And so these things are a way to jumpstart the gut, and hopefully we can correct the gut health, but it goes along exactly with what's cooking. And I even see you have something called food pharmacy.
I do, it's one of my favorite books.
Yeah, so again, if we can really focus on foods, feeding our gut and getting our gut healthy, that means we'll have to use less of these. And again, these probiotics are very, very specific nowadays.
Well, all medicine nowadays is very specific.
It's very targeted.
Cancer and whatever,
Correct.
It's very targeted, the treatments, much more than, my mom died of lung cancer 28 years ago, and then it was basically kill everything.
Right.
And now they know down to the cell, and they know exactly what is the problem, and they target those specific things. That's why they're much more successful in cure rates. And then I have so many friends that have had serious issues, and if they go back to the food that they eat, then health is wealth. I really honestly believe that health is wealth, and the healthier you are. And people sometimes look at me and say, well, organic food is just so expensive. And I say, well, no, nowadays, 10 years ago it was expensive. It was significantly double price. It's significantly less expensive now, and Sprouts now delivers. When I was gone, when I was out of the country, I found out this Sprouts now delivers. I was excited.
Oh, that's good to know. So as we transition, I really want to look at the aspects. So some of us that are spending money on good quality food, we'll encourage you to buy from local farmers. Food that crosses the border here of Arizona has to be sprayed by law. Isn't that crazy? So here it's coming from an organic farm wherever, California, Mexico, if you think that's organic or not, which I'm still debating on that.
It's local.
It's local, but
it's within 500 miles. It's local.
Well, we're trying to define local as within 50 miles.
Yeah.
So again, as we go,
it's better than 1,000 miles or 3,000 miles.
Right.
Because everything that comes into the country is sprayed excessively. Plus, their idea of organic laws and our idea of organic laws are completely different.
Right.
So you're saying if it comes from Mexico or Canada, and it comes to California, and then it comes into Arizona, it gets sprayed
Twice.
coming into the country and,
Twice.
wow.
Because California has a different mandatory spray requirement than everybody else.
Wow.
Theirs is even more
crazy.
stringent,
Yes.
which Proposition 65 drives me crazy over there, so I'm not sure how they can get any of that stuff inside if these chemicals are sprayed.
I know.
Again, as a pharmacist, I understand all those things, and these chemicals are very, very potent. And even as I talked to my father about, in Minnesota as we farm, did we use those potent chemicals? And he goes, sure, we use thousands of gallons of DDT because the government said it was safe. So I now run from those things. When I hear the government say, oh, these things are safe, it's like, I don't believe them. And especially when I look at the chemical structure.
Even GMO stuff, people go, oh, it's helped people in countries that have issues with no water or severe pests or whatever. They say, oh yeah, now they can grow food. Well, yeah, but they don't know the long-term effects. And countries like India are starting to see the long-term effects of GMOs.
Correct.
I mean, it may look very attractive up front, and in 10 years, yes, people can do stuff, but in 50, 60, 70 years that you see what the results are of what they've done.
That's correct.
So it's, the latest whiz-bang thing is not always.
Right. And we're seeing that same thing here in the United States. We're seeing all these different cancers, rare cancers, things I was told in pharmacy school I'd never see. And I'm seeing these things.
And why is that?
Because of the things we're being exposed to, chemicals, genetically modified. It's hard to quantify which is causing it. It's probably a combination of all those things. The GMO, the
Exactly.
chemicals, the water.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, you think water plays into that?
I think everything does, because if you change one thing here, and one thing here, and one thing there, and compound it, and then compound it, and then compound it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even as we look at the 3 crops that are widely genetically modified here and sprayed with glyphosate. Does anybody know what glyphosate is?
Roundup.
Roundup.
Oh.
Roundup. And so the 3 crops that are widely sprayed here in
Of which France has now banned it.
Yeah, so that's great. So wheat, corn, and soy. So even my dad said, well, they told us Roundup would, kill the weeds and not affect the production. And
Replacement for DDT.
right. And so Monsanto did a great job of convincing the government that this was actually a better way. And they said, actually, we'll use less chemicals if we do this. Well, what do you think's happened now over the last 20-some years? They've actually used 3 times the amount of chemicals, and now they've created super weeds and super bugs. And we're seeing all these different types of cancers that really are affecting our health.
Even antibacterial soap. There's still no proof that antibacterial soap will ever save anything except for created some new bacteria strains that cause even bigger issues.
So it's really something, as we become more educated and more culturally acceptable of doing different things, we're actually compromising our immune system. And that's what I really believe is part of it, is our immune systems are compromised because of what we're doing to our guts.
I agree.
And so that's why food becomes even more important.
Agree.
Okay, so food can be your friend or it can be your enemy.
So, what is your guys' opinion of what a probiotic is?
It's all the good guys in your stomach working for you
Yeah.
on your side, making the good chemical reactions happen to digest your food and everything.
Okay, anybody else? So the government has done a really good job of making sure that we don't really have a whole lot of live cultures in our systems, right?
Yes.
I mean, even our cheeses are dead, and cheese is supposed to be alive. I'll tell you a story about the first time I love brie. Oh, love brie. Put some chipotle raspberry sauce on it and put some nice good crackers with it or some good baguette. Fantastic. I go to France for the very first time in my life, 15 years ago, and I'm like, brie capital, oh! I sit down and I couldn't choke down my first bite of brie because it's live cultures. And I have a gag reflex with certain textures and with certain smells. And because of the smell, I could not get it down to eat. And I went to a cheese class in France and they're like, well, you Americans, you have dead cheese. And it's come to find out that yes, we absolutely do. In order to preserve us from whatever, the government's decided that they can't have any live cultures in our food. They are now changing that, so we're
Slowly.
starting to get getting some live cheeses back in, but I mean, that's my first aspect 15 years ago that I'm at 52 yesterday, and so, actually 2 days ago now, but you know, the first time I ever knew that the difference between American cheese and other countries' cheeses. And it's not just France it is, but France just happens to be the cheese capital, so
Right.
it is live bacteria, things that live in our guts, and yeast, live good yeast and bacteria that help fight all of the bad things that happen in our bodies. Because we get them all the time. We're around little kids. I was just around my fiance's kids and my girlfriend's son, and I was like, oh, my kids will hold so many bacteria. I mean, I caught a cold after I just had a cold and the flu shot. But it comes down to we're exposed every day to all kinds of things. We pass, I'm gonna say what, there's 15 of you guys, and I saw 15 people already today, and if I was on the train, I'd see another 25 people or 125 people, and those people you pass and you're in the environment with, so you pass people all the time. Go to the grocery store, same thing, right? Eat things, same thing. Maybe something that agrees with you or doesn't agree with you, but those are things that you're exposed to all the time, and you need that good bacteria that's in your stomach to be able to fight off all of those diseases, infections, bacteria, viruses, everything that you touch.
I agree. I agree.
So
When we went to Europe, probably almost 7 years ago, my kids had a hard time eating American cheese because it always had issues.
yes.
Over there, we could eat everything and had no issues.
Well, I'll say that I grew up on a dairy farm, and as soon as we moved into the city, I could no longer drink milk because it's pasteurized. My mom used to scrape off the fat and she'd just feed it to us. Now I go to other countries, I don't have a problem drinking milk. I do have a problem drinking milk here.
A lot of chemicals. So.
Exactly. And soft cheeses, same problem. Harder cheeses that have spent time aging and so on, I don't have as much of an issue with, but the softer cheeses I really, really do. Fresh cheeses specifically.
Crazy.
Absolutely. And then prebiotics, those happen to be the type of fiber that is already in your intestine today, and you get those from eating fibrous foods. Now the government says that we should eat about 5 grams of those types of foods every day, and I put some in here, and then also from the highest to the lowest amount of weight of fiber per the food, along with some ideas of ounces and so on. You'd be happy with the raw root chicory. You can have that replace your coffee.
Really? I don't even know what that tastes like, actually.
It tastes like coffee.
Really?
It does?
It does. It absolutely tastes like coffee. You can make that.
So where can I get that at?
Sprouts.
You can get it at Sprouts. Yes, you've seen it at Sprouts. I've seen it at Sprouts. I've actually ordered it on Amazon once.
Okay, I'll have to try that.
Along with the second item, which is the Jerusalem artichoke.
Okay. I've never had that either.
You never had that?
No.
You can get the inulin from the Jerusalem artichoke, and it replaces sugar.
Okay.
And so a lot of diabetics eat Jerusalem artichoke. It looks like a root, kind of like it looks like a large ginger, but it tastes like potatoes. So you can boil it and make potatoes out of it, make fake potatoes out of it, and it is really, really good. A lot of diabetics use that as a replacement.
So it doesn't spike your blood sugar or anything?
No, it has a very good low glycemic index.
Okay.
And then I think I did a post on this a little while ago on dandelion greens and how great they are for you. And you can use them in anything you use arugula in. They have about the same flavor. You can use them as a garnish for anything you use, that you eat. So it's not just a pretty flower or the seeds that you spit away, you blow away and make wishes on. You can eat the greens from it, and it tastes super awesome.
So,
You can make wine out of it too.
Wow.
There we go. So anybody that needs to have a wine reason.
what would be, is there something that's not good with arugula versus the dandelion greens, or?
No. It's just a replacement. It's spicy. So it's just spicy. So it's just a spicy
So
green.
you'd be getting good.
Like mustard greens.
Yeah, so you'd be getting
Dandelion
good
greens.
prebiotics in you,
Exactly.
as opposed with the arugula you'd be getting.
Arugula is just less, so by weight, you get less out of it than you do raw dandelion greens. Raw dandelion greens just happen to be high.
Okay.
That used to be a springtime tonic on my grandmother's.
Oh, yeah?
Really?
That does make
Oh, yeah.
sense.
So that
We
might-
would eat the dandelion greens and we also would eat what's called milkweed
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
before it got over 4 inches tall.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, we had a lot of milkweed in
Mhm.
Minnesota.
Absolutely, Michigan too, yeah.
Where do you
Yeah.
get dandelion greens, other than if
You
you
can get them at
have
Sprouts, absolutely.
Oh, really? At
Mhm.
Sprouts?
It's, as long as they're in season, you have to look in season.
Okay.
They're in season, yeah.
Have to see if we can grow those in the town. There are weeds, there are weeds in Minnesota. We
Yeah,
dig 'em up.
exactly, yeah.
In
You dig 'em out
Nebraska
of the
too,
yard, there, yeah,
Nebraska
yeah.
a lot.
Exactly. And then the next 4 or 5 happen to be some version of onion, right? So garlic, leeks, raw onion, cooked onion, those are all part of the lily family. And you can put garlic in things. Garlic has a very high fiber.
Mhm.
As long as as long as both you and your partner are both having garlic, you're okay. Same thing with onions. Leeks are high in fiber, raw onions are high in fiber, and really, I mean, like 2.5 ounces of raw onions are about this much per day. Right? You chop them up, put them in whatever. But you say you guys use some indigestion. I can't tolerate the raw onion in my stomach, so I eat cooked onions, but I eat tons of cooked onions. And if we have French onion soup, each cup of my French onion soup has about each bowl of French onion soup has about two cups of raw onions or cooked onions in it, right? So just those kinds of things, you can put them in all of your different kinds of food. And then it comes down to like bananas and asparagus. Bananas and asparagus, easy peasy to keep around with you. You can eat them. And I can put some ideas for in each one of these. I put some ideas. And if you want more ideas, call me. I'll be happy to give you some others. But there are so many foods that have this kind of fiber, so that's why I included also the 10 foods to help balance your blood sugar, because garlic is in there, green leafy vegetables, kale, spinach, chard, any kind of legume, lentils, maybe not the seeds and the nuts, but they have a lot of fiber in the seeds and the nuts too. But what you want to have that in your stomach for is because you want to have something for the bad bacteria to eat, because if the bad bacteria don't have something to eat, they will eat something else, because they will be fed first, and then your good bacteria get eaten, and you don't have those guys around to help fight off all of the sicknesses and so on that you get. And then probiotic foods, I just put a list down here of you get them from yogurt, fermented foods, which you didn't used to like, but you do now.
I'm eating them. Yep. I should really like them.
Cheeses, kefir. Those kinds of things. But you have to remember with fermented foods, you can't cook them. You have to eat them raw or cold, like sauerkraut and stuff, because once you cook them, the probiotics go away.
What is kefir and how would I make something with it? What would you suggest I try to make that?
So I'm allergic to it, so I really don't do a whole lot with it, but I can find out for you.
Okay.
It usually
I
makes
saw
me
it in the
extremely
store
sick.
the other day and I thought I should try that, but I
It usually makes me
didn't know what
extremely
to.
sick, but I haven't done much with it because it makes me sick.
I've never drank kefir
No,
either, so.
It's
What about
it's a beverage.
kombucha?
It has some probiotics, it's got fermented stuff in it, absolutely. Now, also remember that some of the things that help kill your probiotics happen to be alcohol. And some kombuchas have alcohol in them.
Okay.
Depending on what stage you have them in.
Yes, yes.
Well, it's a fermented drink, so.
Yes, it's a fermented drink. But some of them do have alcohol, some of them don't.
Or added, you mean?
Right.
No, they ferment it to the point where it becomes alcohol.
Okay.
So you have to figure out which stage it comes into. And you'll see you'll notice because like a fermented kombucha regular drink would be like $3.99, but once it gets to the 6.4 alcohol piece, it would be $9.99.
So do they make ideas for pairing?
We have to see which version you get because they come in ginger,
Yeah, I know.
different flavors, right? So the berry, yes.
So I see like the dry probiotics, they have all kinds of different, like 50 million, 100 million, whatever, all the different things. How does the dry powder have the live bacteria in it that you need? Like, how does that work exactly? Like, how do you take them and you get all those
Right.
good things?
So depending on how they're being cultured, they can be cultured from milk, dairy.
Mhm.
Depends on the media. So you can have them in a, like even cheese, and you can take cheese and create probiotics with them. But more and more people are so sensitive to dairy products that they're getting away from that. So they're using different types of cultures, sometimes egg. I've seen soy. I mean, there's all these different medias. So they can bring it down to a dry powder form, encapsulate it, and then as you take it, depending on the type of probiotic, it either adheres to your gut or it just gets in there and you're hoping you have enough of your own probiotic and prebiotics in there to populate or help it populate it. Otherwise, it's just passing on through. So a lot of the probiotics coming out today are designed to where they'll actually adhere to your gut. And that's a big difference between the ones that say were out 5 years ago.
So it's not like a living bacteria or something like that you take. It's something that your good, healthy gut organisms
It helps
feed off of.
re-energize it, right? It
We'll
helps
put
re-energize it,
repropagate,
yeah. So you also have to be careful, like the stuff that Troy has is, you know, pharmaceutical grade.
Mhm.
The stuff that you get from, let's say, CVS or Safeway that is on sale for $3.99, most of those types of, anything you see on sale and so on, they've been manufactured in China, and you cannot guarantee that they're going to be what they say they are. Usually they're done with fillers and some other things that we can't necessarily verify are actually going to be good with us and they're good for us. And there's actually a whole litany of literature out there about buying vitamins that are inexpensive, that are not necessarily really great for you.
They're
Are not going to provide. They're cheap.
Sure, not inexpensive.
And you look at the binders that they're using, some of the binders and fillers will have lead and different things, mercury, heavy metals. But, so again, you get what you're paid for. And when you look at, like this one, we'll take this one. At expiration date, it has to have 350 billion units of per capsule at expiration date. So when it's encapsulated, it's around 600. So again, the FDA is coming in there and verifying that at expiration, this is actually saying what it is, and that there isn't anything more in there other than what they're saying.
So it has to be at least.
Correct.
Okay.
At expiration.
I agree.
So that's really important because, you know, there's so many things we take, a lot of times we don't even know if they're working for us. I have people come in all the time, oh, I've taken this probiotic for years and I think it's working. I go, well, finish that and then try one and see if we get a different response. A lot of us are eating a lot of these different products that, different types of protein, be it soy proteins, be it whey protein, dairy, rice and pea protein, and they're causing bloating. If you're having bloating, that your gut's not healthy. There's something going on. Is it a sensitivity to the protein that you're eating, or is it really a gut health? And probably 9 times out of 10, it's gut health. And I get this call all the time on the, even Dr. Mitra Ray called me up. This has probably been 9 months ago, and said even with the Complete that she was using, which was a non-GMO cold press type soy protein that we're familiar with, was causing bloating in her. And she goes, what's wrong? And I go, your gut's not healthy. So here she goes around lecturing all over the world about gut health, and her gut's messed up. So again,
it can happen so easy though. It can happen by being sick and having to take antibiotics. It can happen by going to the holidays and hitting 16 holiday parties and eating sugar and drinking wine. It can happen by drinking hard alcohol. It can happen because you get the flu.
correct.
So you just constantly have to make sure you do a gut check
Yes.
to make sure you right? Just to make sure that you're always balanced, because it can happen by, I stopped eating bread last week, and so now all of a sudden my body's going, oh well, it's not the same as it used to be, so I can get a little off balance.
I love the bread in Italy.
Yes,
So again, I didn't
yeah.
have issues with the bread. Because again, what they put in our breads here are just crazy.
Well, they hyperinflate it, right? So
Right.
they do a lot of heat inflation with the yeast instead of allowing, a lot of times, and France has the best bread, and even McKelly will tell you France has the best bread. And Vienna has the second best bread, so you have to go to Austria for the second best, and then Italy gets the third. But they don't hyperinflate their breads. They basically make a mixture. They wait for the yeast to eat the sugars for 2 or 3 days, and then they make a baguette, or they make, focaccia bread, or whatever they do, whatever they make out of it. That's what they do. Whereas we are into manufacturing of bread. So we hyperinflate it. We add a lot of heat to it. We hot press it, and then we force the inflation, and then we break it down again, and then we hot press it again and force the inflation so that we make a loaf of bread. We make millions of loaves of bread a day. versus just, you know, at home when your grandma used to make it, in Minnesota when your mom used to make it, bread grew for 2 hours, and then it punched down, and then it grew for 2 more hours.
Towel, yeah.
Yes.
And she made bread for the week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, way different.
Very different, right?
I've never made bread.
We'll get you into class.
I will, I need to. Well, I wanna learn how to use these other foods. I mean, I need to figure out what this artichoke is. That sounds good.
You've never seen a sunchoke?
No?
Ah,
You know what?
that's fantastic.
That's my problem. I stick to what I'm eating and I don't.
That's okay. Lots of people do that.
Yes, Beth?
So if you do have a crappy gut, which I'm sure mine is the pits, where would you start with these things? And if you don't have enough good stuff in there because it's so horrible, do you have to take twice as much or?
Nah, I would say probably start with a good probiotic to boost like Troy's got, but try an elimination diet. So stop with sugar, caffeine, alcohol, and then narrow it back down. You know, don't quit everything because we're not successful if we just quit everything.
Yeah.
So I'm not anyways. So
Right.
some people have a lot of self-control. It's not me. So it's just kind of tailor back to, you know, start off with quitting sugar and quitting alcohol, and then, you know, stop having bread for a week, and then see how you feel, and then stop having dairy and eggs for a week, right? And then stop having meat for a week, and then you have your vegetables, and then start adding in the simple things. My mom used to call it the brat diet: the bananas, applesauce, rice and toast, right? And you add in the simple things, like add some baked chicken in and see how you feel. Add some rice in and see how you feel.
And it all at the same time taking this?
Continue taking that, yeah.
Keep taking that.
Keep taking that. And then and then see how you feel, but add it a little bit at a time. Don't go, oh, I feel fantastic, I'm gonna go
Yeah.
Add everything back in.
add everything back in, yeah.
Okay.
You know, we gotta really look at what we're eating.
Good.
The things you eat the most are the things you wanna look at changing first. So like we ate a lot of chicken, so we made sure we're buying farm-raised local chicken.
Pasture,
Yeah, pasture.
organic, yeah.
Because do you realize most of our chicken is now processed in China? They signed, 3 years ago, signed a trade agreement with our country, and all our chickens get shipped over there and get processed and get shipped back here.
Not according to television.
So I wanna know how they track that chicken. You know, they make me track everything on the pharmacy, everything down to the lot and expiration and all this. How do I know that chicken actually came back here? So again, it's interesting to see the politics that are involved. And
Exactly.
the things you eat the most, start with those things first.
And then, you know, buy your produce from local farmers.
Yeah.
Your local farmer, he or she is so proud of what they grow. They'll tell you exactly how they grow it, what they do with it, when it's good for you, what they can make with it, what they like.
But there are some farmers that do not grow organic.
That's a true statement.
I was up in Prescott and I was talking to a farmer from up there, and I said, "Are you organic?" And he said, "I wouldn't grow organic for anybody in the world."
Oh, jeez.
So, okay,
So
thank
don't
you
buy
very
from
much.
him.
Where's your farm so I won't go there?
So what does organic mean to you though?
Well, organic meant to me that there's not any pesticides, herbicides, and those kinds of things. He's not doing anything unusual with his fertilizer. For him, he wants a maximum yield right away. So he's using all of those things.
Yeah, so don't buy from him.
Yeah, absolutely, right.
Exactly, right? So,
Yeah, organic's really been whitewashed.
Yep,
Yeah,
It really has been.
less than 1% of your farm produce is organic.
It's really sad.
yeah.
So I really look for non-GMO on everything we do. And,
well, that's a good
because
point.
when you look at farmers that are trying to grow organically, they are using they can use waste of all sorts
Yes.
on their crops, and then even things that are not even fit for human consumption are thrown on there. So,
Even
Well-
animals, they do that with their animals
yes,
too.
I mean,
Yeah.
it just drives me crazy. Things that are considered waste to you and I, we throw it on our crops and say that's organic. And even these farms that are horizontal farms that are grown organically with hydroponics,
Mm-hmm.
they don't let a lot of people in their facilities because there's a smell. Because things, you know, this sludge builds up and bacteria start fermenting and it creates a lot of smells. And you know, as we grow vertically on our towers, we see algae and stuff growing, but we don't really get those kind of smells. We're talking like decaying food. You know, fish emulsion that's not fit for human consumption is thrown on the crops, which is helping make it organic. And so again, as a pharmacist, I try to control all those ingredients, and when I cook, I can do that.
Exactly.
And my problem is I have the garlic and I'm just, I'm too quick, and I'm like, I don't throw it on there when I should be. Taking that extra minute and just throw it on when I'm preparing, and I think that's part of it. So as you do your cooking classes, do you help us with that kind of stuff? I mean,
Absolutely.
I'm like,
Absolutely.
okay, because I have a lot of these spices in my cabinet, but I guess I don't know when to use them.
Absolutely, I
So-
do, and I have a tip card about what you should keep in your pantry
Okay,
and how you should use it. So I have a different one that's that.
okay.
Oh, just so you know, I wrote a article in this Green Living magazine. I don't know how many people, and there's magazines here for you to take. I wrote an article about turmeric. Turmeric and cumin and how to use it. And actually cumin is huge because I've used cumin every night. I have a teaspoon of cumin tea before I go to bed. It helps me sleep better, and it replaced my multivitamin.
I
So
swear it
cumin
got rid of
has-
my bad cold that I had. I put some in a turmeric and cumin and cinnamon in a soup and mushrooms.
Yep.
And I felt so much better, like within an hour.
If you get a
I couldn't
sore throat,
believe
you
it.
drink ginger tea or whatever. I mean, it makes it ginger takes and coats your throat and creates a fake coating that your throat usually has on its own. So when you get sick, you get that coating goes away, which causes you to be hoarse and raw and so on. Drink ginger tea, it creates that coating for you so that you feel better and your body starts to repair versus feeling in pain, which is part of the reason why you feel sick.
What is it exactly that the beneficial bacteria feeds off of? Is it like because sugars reproduce bacteria, doesn't it? And so would something like this be made from some sort of low glycemic carbs or something like that, or what kind of things?
You're talking about the probiotics
Yeah,
that are in here?
yeah, or just in general the things that feed that good bacteria. Because whenever you make kombucha or something like that, or your own sauerkraut, you're getting that I think it's the lactic bacteria, whatever it is. So that would be the actual beneficial bacteria itself, and then the things that feed that beneficial bacteria. What is that in general? Like,
So you want to basically keep replenishing that beneficial bacteria. What you want to do with the prebiotics is to make sure you have enough of those in your stomach so that the bad bacteria has something to eat versus going and eating your good bacteria.
so you could eat, like, you know, when you eat the sauerkraut, you get the beneficial bacteria in there,
Exactly.
and then when you take something like this, you get food that feeds that good beneficial bacteria and makes it repopulate itself. Is that?
It is good beneficial bacteria, and what it is it binds to it and helps it grow and help repopulate.
Okay.
Or it re-energizes the bacteria that's in the
Yeah, they're very specific
Compound.
strains now. Used to be you buy like acidophilus, it was just acidophilus.
Right.
I mean, now they've got, you know, lactobacillus acidophilus. You know, they have lactobacillus plantarum, and they're very specific strains now. So we've identified strains that actually should be in our gut. And so that's what you're gonna start seeing. And in time, all probiotics are gonna go there. There's basically 2 to 3 manufacturers of probiotics worldwide. And so depending on the strains, that's when you see your costs go up based on the strains that they've identified. And they're gonna be much more protective. So as you get bacteria or viral type things into the system, the gut will actually stand at attention and go after it,
right.
instead of it lays down and just lets it take
And in
over.
the flyers that Troy handed out, it's got the details on which of the bacteria are there and
If someone
and
with
how they
C.
help
diff
you.
now, I mean, again, we're being exposed, you know, you go to the hospital and we get exposed to bacteria now that we wouldn't have been exposed to if we didn't go there. So it's really crazy. Even then, in the hospital, you think it's a place to go and get
Well,
healthy,
how
and
many
it's
people
not.
have gone to the hospital with XYZ illness and left or died with staph infection? Because it's important to be clean, but it doesn't necessarily mean that antibacterial soap needs to be involved. It just means that you need to clean and make sure that. And there's actually, I had a girlfriend that had a hip replaced, and there was nobody allowed to visit her because it was a healthy hospital. She could not go if she was sick, and nobody could go visit her if they were sick. Period. It was a healthy hospital.
In the US?
Yeah, exactly over on 44th and Van Buren.
Oh, really? Huh. So it's interesting to see how we're, you know, as technology keeps changing, again, we can keep changing with it. And so that information is there, it's just a matter of, are we willing to try to incorporate these things into our diets?
Exactly. And one of my most favorite books is called Food Pharmacy. So it goes through and it talks a lot about, it does gut bacteria too and inflammatory foods, but it gives you ideas on different things to eat.
Are these simple recipes?
It doesn't necessarily give you necessarily a recipe,
Oh,
but it
okay.
gives you an idea as to when to eat what. It does give you a couple of different ideas on recipes and things to eat, like, of course I can't find it when I'm looking for it, right? But,
Excuse me.
but for breakfast in the morning, because breakfast, I'm never hungry in the morning until I eat breakfast. And I have to force myself to eat breakfast. So it gives you an idea on like smoothies and what smoothies can do for you, what different like pestos and so on can do for you. Having the salad in a jar available, or doing your breakfast in a jar with oats and so on. Those kinds of things are in here, and it talks about what to do, but it gives you mostly about how to teach yourself how to comfort yourself without having sugar. Just, I'm a comfort food person. And then, also, just basically anti-inflammatory of, fishes, and I should have actually probably, if I would have not been home at midnight, I would have probably marked a bunch of pages in here about things to.
Yeah, and even
Let's
Western
look at
medicine is saying that inflammation is the key to disease, so even they're acknowledging it now. Something that a lot of us as practitioners have been saying is happening, and now they're actually jumping on board with that and seeing the use to like in curcumin. And
Exactly, and I actually started I love avocado toast for breakfast. Oh, it's like and it's easy to do, right? So you just mush some avocado, throw it on a piece of toast, and you can eat it while I'm running off and doing whatever. I started adding cumin seeds to it. It adds a fantastic flavor to it, and it adds a whole additional level of fiber and nutrition that comes through those cumin seeds, and I got that from here. So, and then, other things like eat dark chocolate. Anything over 77% cacao, make sure you keep it around. If you have a sugar craving, eat one little square of it, wait 20 minutes and see if it goes away. But there's so many antioxidants in dark chocolate.
I always think about all the bug parts in chocolate. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Bug parts. So when I do a lot of food allergy sensitivities, I had a patient come back really, really high to cockroaches, and I'm like, it's like back in the office talking to her about her diet, and I go, what are you eating that I know your house isn't infested with cockroaches.
Well, maybe.
And, so I researched it, and I go, do you eat a lot of chocolate? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. So as soon as we cut the dark chocolate out, that was what was really inflaming her gut.
I said one square.
She was having a lot more than one square. She was addicted to this, and so as a result of that research, a lot of the natural cocoa beans are just laid out on the ground in a lot of these countries, and bugs come and feast. And
They do, absolutely.
so again, it's part of nature, but again, some of us are reacting to bug parts, and bug parts are allowed in our food, and to a certain extent. So when I think about those things, and that lady, and she's actually doing really well just by the fact that we took that out of her diet. And maybe in time we'll add it back in, but we'll have to look at finding some that's less reactive for you. So that's something, she's tried a little bit of here and there, different chocolates, and she's still having reactions, so she knows better to keep adding.
Interesting.
Again, once you identify.
Everybody's
the food-
sensitive to different things, right?
Yes,
Absolutely.
because once that gut is messed up, then we're really, really missing it. Because if you have loose stools all the time, what are you typically missing? What bacteria? There's a specific one. It's in this one here. It's the Saccharomyces boulardii. So those that have chronic loose stools, they're missing the good bacteria, the Saccharomyces boulardii. Again, they've identified that strain. So I have chronic patients that have chronic diarrhea, and a lot of them, part of it is they have lots and lots of estrogen. They've consumed a lot of soy that's not non-GMO, so they're being exposed to different chemicals. So as soon as we identify that and get those things out of their system, lower their levels, and put them on these different probiotics, we can get their gut under control. because the gut's there to do its purpose. I mean, it needs to help be part of that digesting, absorbing those nutrients. Otherwise, your gut flora lays down, and that leads to leaky gut syndrome. And I'm sure some of you have had that or heard of it or know
I
somebody
think
that has
that a lot of people don't realize too that digestion starts with your mouth, right? So your tongue and all the taste buds that are there start your digestive process. It sends signals to your brain to release insulin and different things and different chemicals inside your body to start to digest the food that once it ends up in your stomach, right? Otherwise it would be in your stomach, and then your stomach would go, oh, well, I think I need to have this. I'm gonna go pick it from the pantry, I'm gonna go with this. But your brain, and a lot of people eat fake sugars, and fake sugar still tastes sweet on your tongue, and so your brain says, insulin, you need insulin. So once it gets into your stomach and you have no insulin, your stomach, the insulin is sitting there and it's going, I have nothing to eat, I have nothing to eat, I have nothing to eat, what do I do? And then it causes other issues and it starts to kill your other bacteria that you have in your stomach. Because it leaves that chemical, or considered a free radical kind of just sitting out there doing whatever. Because there's nothing for it to do.
So if you're drinking a lot of juice or something like you see in schools all over the world, restaurants, they have, the apple juice, is that highly filtered apple juice and everything with no fiber. You're just doing a huge spike of sugars in your stomach and taking out all the fiber. So you're really causing a big imbalance there with that.
Well, you're causing your body
bad
to produce extra insulin that may not be needed versus having a smoothie. A smoothie is much better for you than having a glass of apple juice, but keep that fiber in, keep that meat inside of it, or eating an apple is better for you than doing that. But I mean, I'd say that probably if you eat 4 or 5, 6 ounces of juice, which is the serving size, it's not going to really bother you. It's those people that eat a case of juice, or the kids that suck on all those little juice boxes with the little baby straws because it's easy, right? So
They're healthy,
those, okay.
The government says they're healthy.
That's why the soda machines in
the
schools.
government also says that potatoes are a vegetable, and it should be, as fried potatoes are okay in our school systems. They have French fries, it's okay for them.
Justification. I mean, you think of all the sugar alcohols, the artificial sweeteners we consume. Here in the United States, we don't count those as calories, but over in Europe, they do.
Yeah.
So it's
Or
really,
Asia or wherever,
yeah,
a lot of
so-
countries they do, yeah.
but yet we're convinced here that xylitols and those things don't count, and they still do. And again, we're trying to trick our body into thinking those are acceptable, and they're not.
And most countries, high fructose corn syrup is not allowed.
It's a poison.
And what's that derived from?
Corn.
Corn. It's genetically modified, sprayed.
Yeah.
So, and now they're changing the name of it, so they're not even calling it
What are
high
you
fructose.
calling it?
Different things now, all different names now.
I hadn't heard what
Yep,
you're doing.
yep, they're trying to,
Corn,
Well, they had the commercial, right? Saying, it's from corn, so it must be good.
yeah.
It's a sugar.
so again, we're being exposed to these things, and again, read labels. And some of us, really, it's pretty sad when you have a 5-year-old, my son, would go up and he was looking for high fructose corn syrup. He couldn't even say the word. Or he was looking for these other artificial sweeteners. Because as soon as he would eat anything with artificial sweeteners, he would have an asthma attack.
Oh, wow.
So it's really sad at 5, he's realizing, or partially hydrogenated oils. I mean, we'd stop at McDonald's because it was easy on the way to church, or after church, and he would eat it, take 2 bites, the next thing you know. And so we eliminated partially hydrogenated oils, and pretty much everything that he liked was partially hydrogenated. And he was reacting to it.
Well, the 70s, when I think that, it's probably our generation that started off with the be sugar-free, be fat-free, be whatever, right? And so we went to margarines to find out that they have full of triglycerides, and then we can't have triglycerides. So if you're gonna have butter, just have butter. I mean, I make my fish with butter. But I do not cook with butter. And at the very end of cooking, I put a little sliver of butter in it so that it just kind of seethes over top of it. It's cooked with olive oil or whatever other, avocado oil or whatever I've decided to cook it with. But at the very end, I put a little bit of butter on it so that it has that creamy aspect to it, without having 8 pounds of butter in the dish.
And the reason you don't cook with butter because
Well, I don't cook
Because
with butter because it's high in fat, and because of the fact that it really honestly, once it gets to the burn cycle, then it changes the chemical structure of any oil. So I'm very careful about how I cook, because I use avocado oil, olive oil, sunflower oil for non-cooking things, and then I used to use a little bit of butter, but I won't use anything else.
It's hard. I mean,
You gotta know the smoke point. Once you hit a smoke point, once you see your dish start to smoke, throw the oil away, because it's a different chemical composition.
it becomes partial arginine.
Yep.
The body can't handle that. So, again, you're going to control what you put in your bodies, and you can either put good stuff or not so good stuff, or we're not going to be perfect. I mean, even when I'm, at the end of the day, it's the last thing I do is go home and cook, and I'll
You
grab.
tell me about it.
Yeah. Especially if you cook all day. Where I've been counting pills or compounding all day, and I can look at kale now and want to just eat a kale salad, which is way different, because that's not who I was. You could have met me 5 years ago. There was no greens in my diet, so.
So there's hope.
Yes, there is hope.
Well, no, you just have to be the best you can be, right? So, did you get one? Oh, I'm sorry.
And you didn't mention coconut oil at all, or you?
I do use coconut oil for, I'm gonna have to share those.
Yep.
Oh, we have extra, okay. So I do use coconut oil for desserts and for sweet vegetables. Otherwise, or I use it as a spray on my popcorn. I air pop my popcorn, and I use it as a spray just to put a little bit of salt on my popcorn, and that's it. But otherwise, it goes on cold. It goes on completely cold on my popcorn.
Okay. I'll have to try that.
It works really well.
You need to put in a spray bottle and just spray it on.
Yep, I just put it in a spray bottle, and I pump the spray thing, and as it's coming out, I put a little bit on, and then I just add a little more.
Okay.
And then I put a little butter, a little salt on it. It's perfect.
So what's coconut good for? Thyroid function.
No, that's true. That's very true.
So for those of us that have marginal thyroids at times, and cooking with coconut or eating, and I used to think my aunt and uncles were crazy. They put coconut shavings on everything. If it, it was on everything, and that drove me crazy as a kid. So I was constantly picking coconut off, raw coconut. But now I realize it was actually good for me. So
Well,
now
a lot of people don't know that if you have a handful of almonds first thing in the morning, it balances your blood sugar throughout the day. Get that good fiber in you, and it balances your blood sugar throughout the day. You don't get those highs and lows and the crashes that you normally would get.
Again, protein will help drive those adrenals too. So again, getting good protein, I'll usually middle of the day or afternoon I'll hit some almonds as well. So I can feel that blood sugar
Yep,
sort of
yep.
up and down, especially if I'm craving something sweet. So what'd
You
hand
should
out?
have the dark chocolate.
There you go. I was thinking about those bugs.
So because I'm a chef, and when I get home at the end of the day, I do not like to cook. So on Sundays, which is typically my Monday, I sit down and in 90 minutes, I prep all of my food I'm going to eat all week. That way I have no options. And so I put something together here, just a quickie. The make piece, and I have recipes typically on my website for most of these items. And then the buy, I keep these items here. And you could probably consider seasonal vegetables to be included in here somewhere, but I take an oven herb chicken, so I basically take chicken, meatballs, tenders, cod, and I put them all in the oven at the very same time. So I basically take chicken tenders and I dice them up into little cubes, throw them in one tray. I take cod and cover it with pesto, throw it in another tray. I take herb baked chicken in another one. I make meatballs and throw it in there, throw some sauce on it, and they cook. They come out, I put them in the refrigerator. And then I make my quinoa, my oven baked potatoes, my riced cauliflower and butternut squash. Make all of those guys and throw them in the refrigerator. And that way I have a mixture of things that I can use throughout the week to mix up and make my breakfasts, my lunches, and my dinners, and I have snacks. So you can make any variation you want. You can pick, say, well, I want butternut squash this day with my meatballs and and throw some seasonal vegetables. But the vegetables are the things that I do while everything else is heating up. I take and chop them up real quick and I throw them on it at the very end, because when they're hot, they cook the vegetables automatically. So you don't have to cook them. And for asparagus, if you want to eat raw asparagus, just break it. Where you break the asparagus, eat the soft piece, and chop up the rest of it, throw it in your quinoa. Once your quinoa is hot, asparagus cooks in 2 seconds, and you have nice crisp vegetables in a meal, and I can cook and have food in my stomach in 15 minutes. That eliminates any of my desire to pick something I shouldn't eat.
You don't have to think about it, it's just done.
Exactly.
So you know.
So you just kind of plan out what you want to have, and then you make those things, like the meat, you make your proteins and your starches, and then you have all the raw things to do. I mean, sometimes I take, on the eggs, I just throw them in my saute pan in the oven while I go and brush my teeth. When I come back out, they're done. I don't have to look at them, I don't have to think about them, I have to remember they're there. Sometimes that doesn't happen, but to remember they're there. But other than that, everything's been put into them, and I just take them out and I throw them in a to-go container, and I eat them in the car on my way.
So you're talking about cooking an egg in the oven?
Yeah.
I've never done that.
Yeah.
A raw egg.
Put a raw egg in the oven in a saute pan.
Okay.
Cooks
I'll
up
try.
just like it would on the stove.
Really?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
Make
such a
toast.
creature of habit.
Make toast. Throw some avocado. Crush some avocado on it. Throw
Uh-huh.
some cumin seed inside of it. You have breakfast.
That sounds good.
You can take and take your coconut yogurt. I eat coconut yogurt because milk products bother me. But you take coconut yogurt and I add protein powder to it and dip my fruit in it. That is such an awesome snack. And dessert.
So you have chia
Chocolate.
seeds, huh?
Chia seeds, yeah.
Mm.
Superfood.
Mm-hmm. See, again, making cooking easy, and that's probably the issue I have, is keeping it simple. Because it's not fun if I don't keep it simple. Just like, about a month ago, my wife's like, oh, I've got this great recipe that I found on the internet. It only takes 15 minutes to prepare. So I went and bought everything, and then I started reading it, like, wait a minute, that's after you have everything chopped up and everything diced. You can throw it all together, sure, 15
Yeah.
minutes.
When I do recipes, I do prep time, cook time,
That's good.
bake time,
That
yeah.
was, I started about 2 hours prior. It was a good thing I did. And I was barely in time to have dinner at 5:30, so.
Yeah, but no, I take in probably in 90 minutes, I can prep and have these items all ready. I cook them all at the same time.
Mhm.
Butternut squash I throw in the oven with. I cut them in half, just pull out the thing, throw some olive oil, some salt and pepper on top of it. Throw it in the oven along with my chicken, my meatballs, and my chicken tenders. And then you take the chicken tenders out, throw some salsa on it, you have salsa chicken. Decide you don't want to have salsa chicken, put pesto on it, and you have pesto chicken.
So, things are good. How many days, so when you type your meats, how many days can you get it? 5 days? 6 days?
So I have 4 days here, so
4
I
days.
typically would say that's 4 days.
Okay.
And everybody wants to eat out once a week. You don't have to be good every day. You can if you want to be. You can good 7 days a week if you'd like to.
Mhm. Well, it'd be good if we could cook a little more at home, so. Okay. I see here's an apple cider there. Again, apple cider is a great thing. Some of us can
It's
add
so
to
good
our
on
Apple
our
cider.
diet.
cucumbers. It just, makes cucumbers, it's so good.
Again, it's really helps with digestion and the stomach.
And I always keep apple cider vinaigrette, so I just take some French mustard.
Okay.
I take 2 tablespoons of that and throw it in a bowl probably about this big, and then I put enough apple cider vinegar over top of it to cover the mustard. And then I add a little bit of honey and some olive oil to it, and you have the best dressing.
I made that last night. The only thing I added was garlic. I added some garlic to it.
Absolutely.
The same exact recipe. It called for honey mustard, and I didn't have honey mustard, so I had mustard and I had honey, so I said, okay.
You just have to be careful with the kind of French mustard that you use, because a lot of them add a lot of crap to it.
Okay.
I use Miele, which is from France, and it's available in most stores now. Whereas I used to have to, when I first started 15 years ago, when I first started going to France, I would buy like a suitcase full and then bring it home. And its customs guys go, why do you have like 17 cans of Miele? I'm like, because I eat it all the time. It's also really good with French fries versus ketchup.
Interesting. All right. This has inspired me to do a little more cooking because I see it's gonna be easier. I love to cook.
Yeah, I get it. I come home and sometimes I'm like, all right, what's the last thing I want to do today? It's like a mechanic doesn't want to,
Work on their own car.
exactly. Plumber doesn't want to fix his own pipes, or
So as we circle
I'm sure you
back.
don't want to serve your own pills.
No. I mean, you can take things orally all the time, but again, getting satisfaction in eating these things. And I've always liked my vegetables very al dente, where the rest of my family's always liked them soft and soggy. So that's probably been my problem growing up, is I would cook them hardly anything, and because I like to crunch, even today. So as we go down this foodie trail of better health, we realize that the more raw you can eat them, the better. But some of us can't tolerate eating those things raw. So again, figuring out where you have to cook them to, because those enzymes can either be beneficial to us or they're going to cause more issues, bloating and gas and things
Smoothies
like that.
never worked for me. I have masticate. I am a chewer. So smoothies, I can probably have a smoothie twice a week, but every day, no.
Right. And again, over chewing your food. I over chew my food big time. And we can go to a restaurant and I can have a head start and I'm still the last to finish. But I've always had digestion issues. And it goes back to what I ate growing up. And I never added any type of fiber, greens, or anything. I stayed away from all that.
Well, we grew up. I grew up on a dairy farm, right? So we always had meat. We always had milk. We always had cheese. We always had eggs because we had chickens too. But we had a whole garden. However, you only had. We weren't very wealthy, so we had a whole garden, and everything that my mom grew, it ended up being canned.
Yes, we did.
And it was canned, and
So are you talking about eating more seasonal or canned?
yeah, we ate more seasonal, we ate canned, and so even though we had fresh food, we never, I have to say, I was probably 17 years old before I had a fresh vegetable. Other than lettuce and strawberries. And if we ate too many strawberries when we picked them, we got in trouble, so.
That's probably was 30 or so before I ate lettuce. Actually, when I went to college, I had to eat it because I had the meal plan. And you got this little bit of meat or whatever and some starch and a big salad and then some sort of other vegetable and dessert. So I learned to eat everything. Otherwise, I was hungry all the time.
And now we tell everybody you have to have half a plate of vegetables, right? In order to have a healthy diet, you have a quarter plate of meat, a quarter plate of starch, and a half a plate of vegetables.
So how many of you do
And
that?
eat from the rainbow.
And so why do we want to eat multicolors?
One thing, it tastes good.
Tastes better.
Well, each one of them have different nutrients, right?
Yes.
Right.
Some are very different nutrition aspects, and so, plus it's not so boring. If I had to eat lettuce every day, I don't think I could do it.
Well, there's so many different good lettuces now.
Well,
we
you
grow, so-
you grow a ton of good lettuces, yes, but if I was to go and buy at the store 2 or 3 different kinds of lettuces, and I look at the refrigerator, I'm like, oh, that's the last thing I want to do.
So again, as you go down the path, if you have time to grow your own food, some of you have raised beds and vertical farming towers and things like that. You already know the difference when you grow your own food. I mean, how long
I
have you
love my
been
tower.
growing your own food?
5
Or
years.
5 years, 6 years now? And do you think that's changed your health?
Oh yeah, the whole thing's changed our health. We've been taking a look at what we consume. We didn't know about this rainbow thing,
Right.
so we've just got the same things day after day after day,
Actually,
and then
from the
we
rainbow
started
page.
incorporating the different colors, and it has made a difference in us and our grandkids.
Right. And that's how I pretty much got rid of my eczema, is I started eating from that rainbow. And when you look at those 30 to 40,000 different phytonutrients that our body needs, and even in multivitamins, you can't get all those targeted approaches.
Exactly.
And that's the issue. When I use these supplements, I'm doing them for targeted reasons, not to replace food. And I think that's what's driving me the most crazy about a lot of the products that are hitting the market. They're saying eat organic and do this and that. And next thing they're talking about this little packet here. Who has time to go and cook a nice organic meal and spend $30 when you can just use this packet here, which will replace all that for less than $3. And that really drives me crazy as a healthcare practitioner, because you're not going to get everything in that little packet, because there's those synthetic chemicals, minerals and nutrients that you may not even absorb.
Exactly, and that's what you see a lot when you go to the gyms or whatever, and you go to those bodybuilding whatever. They're like, here's your package of 16 pills, please eat these all day.
Mm-hmm.
I can't swallow a pill, I can't swallow an aspirin.
So when I do use supplements, I'm doing targeted approach. If there's an adrenal issue, we're going after the adrenals. If the thyroid's not functioning, but it always goes back to the gut. And do we need to do a detox? Do we need to really look in the foods we're eating? Can we eat foods that are going to be easier for us to digest, that are less acidic? And it's really easy to get on this path of just eating the same thing, and that's my biggest issue, and it gets boring after a while. So getting something simple like this to make things different, and that's what I need to do. So appreciate that. Questions on different things as we.
Well, so you said that you put your recipes on your website for like quinoa
I do.
and food and
Exactly. Every Sunday I do a recipe. So they're through my Instagram and they're through my website.
Okay.
I'm looking at where I can consolidate them because they're in a rolling thing with all my other social media stuff. But I'm working on a place to consolidate them. But if you have a question, I'll get you my business card and you
Okay.
can
Good. Yeah,
call
that'd
me
be great.
and I'll point it to you.
Yeah, I'd love any suggestions on making quinoa nuts. So we've
Mushy?
tried to put it. Yeah, we've tried. All
The
kinds
trick
of different
is
things.
not follow the instructions on the box.
It is.
The trick is saute onions and garlic,
Okay.
then add your quinoa to it and it'll pop like Rice Krispies.
Oh.
And then add your liquid. Add chicken broth, add vegetable broth, add whatever kind of broth you like,
Okay.
as opposed to water.
Right.
And 2 times the amount of quinoa you throw in there, and then don't put the lid on it, leave it a lid off and let it just evaporate and cook. That's the trick, is to saute the quinoa versus letting it get mushy.
Yeah.
Because once you saute it, just like meat, the cells close. The cells close a little bit and they stay al dente.
Yeah.
So they inflate, but they still have that crispness on the outside.
That's
I made it like oatmeal the other day. I had some left over, so I just
Yeah,
added
yeah.
cinnamon and almonds and
That works
raisins
too, yeah.
to it, and a little bit of water and heat it up. Oh, it was so good.
I'll do my rice that way.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times I don't like the really oil and pestos. So I make pesto and I take white quinoa and I just cook it just a hair. And then I add it to the pesto and that just opens it up enough so that the oil gets absorbed from the pesto, and it keeps it not as oily.
Oh wow.
When it comes to cooking versus raw stuff, whenever you cook something, is that mostly a negative because it kills off the enzymes that are in the food, but everything else is, or does it also
the
change
nutrition,
chemical
so
structure?
Nutrition of any vegetable, from the time you pick it to the time you eat it, goes down. So that's why if it's in a
When we talk about
warehouse, whatever,
dark, cold truck travel,
exactly, dark cold
1500
truck,
miles.
1,500 miles, then they continue. So if you figure it takes, for most vegetables fruit that we get from any grocery store, it's been 3 to 4 weeks from the time it's been picked to the time you see it in the store. Okay, so the nutritional value is about 50%. So if you take it home and you leave it in your refrigerator for another week, you're still dropping until you eat it. So if you pick it from a tower garden, which is why I love my tower garden, I can pick it there and I have full nutrition on it. But once you cook it, so that's raw. So once you cook it, it cooks out more nutritional value. So that's why I promote only cooking, 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there.
Are you
I mean,
doing
in fact,
steaming or
steam, you can steam, yes, but steam also can, once it's hot, it continues to cook. Right, so I'll take and I will dice up asparagus, the not part that I haven't made into something else or eaten raw. I will dice it up and I'll throw it in. After the quinoa is cooked, I throw it in and then I serve it. I don't sit there and cook it because it needs to stay al dente and it needs to keep the nutritional value. I don't boil.
okay.
Even spinach, if I'm sauteing spinach, I get the pan hot, I do the onions, the garlic and so on, I throw the spinach in, and then I just set it I take it off the fire, because it'll wilt on its very own.
Okay. I know I'm overcooking everything, so thinking it's better.
And I have that problem with my chefs that work for me too. I'm like, oh, okay, we have to learn this now. I take it for granted because that's how I cook.
That's a good question.
But yeah, I mean, it comes down to from the time it's picked to the time it's in your mouth, it needs to be the shortest window possible. And it needs, if you like it cooked versus raw, then the shortest amount of cooking possible.
You know, the USDA keeps coming out with more studies showing that most of these dark green, leafy greens that we're eating easily have 50% of their value left, and sometimes close to zero. I mean, one of the accounts I just started servicing was getting their lettuce from Ecuador. How do you, I mean, I just don't get it. I mean, it's that cheap that you can buy a head of lettuce from Ecuador, ship it all the way here, and you know, they can't believe the flavor and the lettuces.
It's in our
we're
trade
growing.
agreements, right?
Well, yeah, it just drives me crazy.
Maybe it's a zombie lettuce.
Yeah. you know.
Zombie lettuce, nice, yeah.
So again, if you buy local, most of that produce has been picked within that week, sometimes within the day or two before. And you know, these farmers work hard to bring their wares to the market. And, some of the markets are a lot more stricter. The one at Gilbert, in Gilbert Farmers Market, they're very strict there. Unless you grow it or make whatever you're selling there yourself, they don't let you sell it. So there's certain vendors that no longer are there.
When is that?
That's on Saturdays 8 to 1.
Saturday, 8 to 1.
Or 8 to noon, actually, 8 to noon.
Whereabouts?
Where is it?
You know where
Gilbert.
the tower tank is? The big tower, water tower is?
Yeah.
It's right there.
Oh,
It's in that parking lot.
They can't miss it.
Yeah, so I
You see
really love
everybody
that.
funneling there.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
we go
there's,
to the one in Scottsdale, we saw your
right, so
booth there.
again, there's a big vendor there that doesn't grow everything, but yet they used to say that they grew everything organically, and they were
Yeah.
getting it from all over the world. So, so, yeah, and I know
what's there now?
they're still in Scottsdale, yeah, they still come in, but they're not allowed at the Gilbert Farmers Market, cause
No.
they're not growing that produce themselves. I mean, there's pictures of them with their big trucks at Cisco and Whole Foods, you know, these big places picking up produce that's being trucked in, so it's really sad that they're trying to say they're growing it.
No kidding.
So it's catching up to
Yeah,
them.
I don't buy from Cisco, I buy from
Oh, right.
Peddlers or
peddlers or from
Leo Tool.
Stern.
Stuff. So again, certain vendors here are really buying the local from the local farmers, and they go out and they verify what they're seeing.
Exactly.
So I get inspected by the people that run the Gilbert Farmers Market at least once a year.
Oh, wow.
And then I have my USDA certification, which is good handling practices and good agriculture practices. I pay for 2 inspections a year. One is announced and one is unannounced. And then since I sell seedlings, I ship seedlings all over the United States, I get 3 other inspections. So they just show up unannounced. And so January 3rd, the USDA showed up here and wanted to do an inspection, unannounced. Well, since we're not in soil, we don't have as many issues that a lot of these soil farmers have. And they always talk about how clean we are. And I'm thinking, well, I wanna run my place like a clean room. Well, that's not practical, cause you still have plants. But compared to soil farming, they're always giving us, you know, high marks for how clean we are. So again, I know the USDA on the local level is really trying to enforce that. The problem is we get so many regulations to where the cost of food keeps going up because of regulations. And if I spend, you know,
And that's why that's why organic's been watered down a great deal, is because organic, you can still self-certify organic. It was supposed to be, I think, last November that we were going to get rid of the self-certification, however, due to the current administration, that's not gonna happen, so. And then we wanted to make sure everything had the legal, you know, USDA organic. But people have gone to the thing and they've just ride the line of what it requires to be organic.
And those
And
that choose
that's why it's
to,
important to talk to them.
right, those that choose to step out and be vocal, and then it seems like our government goes after them. And you can look at different places that are, I mean, how many restaurants do you see checking the temperature of their, whatever they do, their beans and their chicken and their meats, and every hour on the hour? I mean, you think about all the E. coli that's probably being grown and we get sick from. So it doesn't mean we don't need regulations, it's just, you know, to what extent do we go to? Even when you're cooking.
I check mine every hour.
Do you?
Yes.
So, here we go. So.
We have no choice. I do cater.
That's good.
I have no choice, my guys don't have a choice.
Okay. So again, you're following those stricter standards. So we all choose, you know, the bar is here, but a lot of us choose to practice up here. And I know as I, worked with Beverly, the things we did together, we chose to work on a higher level, but yet the people we work for
Yeah, didn't like that.
didn't like that.
Well, that's part of the issue, right? To be able to grow and to do the things that need the quantity to serve everyone in the country, it's really difficult to have everyone doing organic because of the requirements that are there. And I think it's a constant balancing. I mean, I certainly don't promote using GMOs and other things, but I think it's really difficult when you think about the mass quantities of what people need to be able to eat. Again, if you could get education out to everyone up front and make sure people are eating the right foods and not eating all the junk that's out there that's 10 cents for your top ramen or whatever.
Right.
Get off the soapbox, but
Well,
it becomes a real
Yeah, well,
issue,
it comes
but-
down to, I tell people, it comes down, you pay me now, you pay me later.
Right.
Either you eat organic now, or you spend all the money on doctors and prescriptions
Right.
and so on later.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
So it comes down to, either you eat good now, or
Pay for it later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is that, Hippocrates? I mean, he knew it. Let food be medicine, let medicine be your food.
Right.
And you think about it, I think we all will agree, but when you look at our kids and their kids, they just think, well, take this pill. I mean, I remember even my mother-in-law, she was a smoker and was dying of lung cancer, and even at the end, she's like, isn't there a pill you can just give me to fix this? I mean, we've got this ingrained, just give me a pill, give me this to fix it, or what's the quick fix? And again, if you do the simple things, the things you do every day to your body, you're
I
gonna
think
be healthy.
millennials are figuring it out though. I think there's a huge amount of millennials out there that they may not be well, they're not my kids, they might be your kids, but they're not my kids.
My kids know how to eat better, but
Well, for different reasons,
yes,
but yeah.
when they're home, they eat properly. But again, we can impact ourselves, just our own health, and especially as we get older here. If we eat things that will promote gut health, you're going to be healthier. You will be healthier. All right. Other
Exactly.
questions?
You know
Yes.
anything about grapefruit and the absorption of, because I know all the doctors like, don't eat grapefruit if you're on medicine, but does grapefruit also help you absorb other things, or does that help your gut bacteria?
Grapefruit's
Or like,
really
what's
good.
the deal with that?
Grapefruit's really good for you, but there are
Certain medicine.
certain medicines, especially around high blood pressure, cholesterol, and heart medicine, that are
They'll decrease
enhanced, or they
can enhance
they
the
can
absorption.
enhance the absorption of those medicines, which can overact for what you're supposed to do. That's why they say not to do that.
But does it also, do you know, does it help with the absorption of regular foods? You should try to eat it with a meal or something like that. I mean,
Well, it's an acid, so again, some of us that, homeopathic medicine
Mm-hmm.
treats acid with acid.
Yes.
So I don't like grapefruit, but if I eat it, I digest it well. I mean, if I drink apple cider vinegar with my fatty meal, I digest that meal better. It's things I don't like, but it's that homeopathic remedy where you're treating like with like. And what's ironic, we're seeing more and more of those things come into Western medicine, being allergy shots. That's homeopathic medicine, and now the reason it's coming into favor is because the drug companies are making these things and they can get paid for it.
Yeah.
So here you're giving back things that you're allergic to in really small amounts to create immunity. So again, you're treating like with like, and so a lot of these homeopathic doctors that I originally didn't think knew what they were talking about, they really were on track way better than.
Well,
most
they've
of
now created a new certification between the naturopath and homeopathic doctors to MDs. They've created a new certification that kind of bridges the gap.
the MDH,
The MDH, yes. Thank you.
medical doctor of homeopathic.
Yeah.
What about functional medicine? We see that a lot now. Is that somewhere in, that's where I thought they were, was kind of in between.
A lot of them are getting the MDH certification. Yeah, like there's a couple of doctors we used to work with that we thought were probably out there, but they're probably more on track than we realized. They were ahead of their time, and they really bucked the system, and then they got in trouble because of the system. Where nowadays those things are being allowed.
Yeah, we had while I was gone, when the guys were making food boxes for us on last week, and we got an inspection. The Maricopa Health Department came and got an inspection, and the guy's like, "Well, where's your bleach for your sanitation water?" And we go, "We don't do that." And he said, we're all organic. We do no chemicals whatsoever. And he's like, oh, I have to go look up and see what the water temperature needs to be for you to sanitize it. So, you know, so they a lot of times don't even know too as to what they need to do in order to make sure that we don't.
Isn't that something?
Mhm. It really is.
Yeah.
So it depends on how far you want to take it. But if you start with your gut and look at the things that really keep that gut healthier, again, eating some of these things that have that fiber.
And buy from people that you know, that you can trust, are doing what they're supposed to do.
So what do you use to clean, Jen? Do you use white vinegar or what do you use?
So I use vinegar to clean, yes. However, for sanitation, I have to use water at 100 and, we're having a debate on whether it's 160 or 170 degrees. It, honest to God, doesn't matter. It's an extra bucket of water I have to boil and put in the water. It doesn't matter. But at the very end, I have no choice but to, all my food contact surfaces, I have to, I spray with iodine because that's at least better than using chlorine or ammonia. There's 3 things approved by the FDA: iodine, chlorine, or ammonia.
What strength iodine do you use?
So I'm sorry?
What strength of iodine do you use?
So you have to use 100 milligrams per, whatever color purple has to show up in the test strip.
So it's a 10%.
10%.
7% on the farm,
Yeah.
What'd you use on the farm?
7% iodine.
7?
And you knew it when you got it on your hands.
Oh yeah, isn't it?
Other questions? Has this been informative?
Yeah.
Did it help you guys?
I know a lot of you are on the right path already. I know a lot of you are
I wash
doing
vegetables with vinegar.
Vinegar.
And do you use white vinegar to do that?
White
or-
vinegar, yes. I use white vinegar. I use gallons of white vinegar a month.
things. Full strength.
It'll make your
Full
clothes
strength.
really white too.
You do? Yes. Oh, I can do another class on that if you'd like.
So getting those chemicals off that fruit, it's important.
Yeah.
And also, also make sure you look up, the Environmental Working Group has a Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen. It'll tell you which the 12 dirtiest, most pesticide-ridden fruits and vegetables are out there, so that you know which ones to clean more. And some of them you can't get all the pesticides off of, like strawberries. We tried to scrub a strawberry,
Right.
Get nothing.
right?
So you put strawberries in white vinegar as well?
White vinegar, yep. I put everything in white vinegar and wash it off. I get sprayed, yep. I spray it. I spray and then rinse.
They have some
30
kind of
seconds.
spray at Sprouts that they say use, is that any good, do you know?
I just use vinegar.
I just use vinegar. Vinegar's
Cheap.
It's inexpensive. At Costco, you can buy 2 gallons of
Oh, yeah,
vinegar
it's
for
pretty cheap.
$2.97 or whatever it is.
It's pretty something or other. But yeah, it's cheap.
Yep. And I use vinegar for dryer sheets. I don't use dryer sheets at all. I put a tablespoon of vinegar in my wash, and it takes care of any static cling.
So how would we, I'm just wondering, do you have like a restaurant or do you do catering service?
I do
How
catering,
do we
yeah,
find out
absolutely.
more about your,
Yeah, right here.
oh, that's your deal right
Just so happens.
there. And your farming classes, you do farming classes
Yep.
also?
So on the
Because I'd
weekends-
be interested in that. I have a little urban farm out in Maricopa, so I
Oh,
live about an
great.
hour away. And I just got my first tower garden, so
Oh,
that,
wow.
I love my
the other
tower
day
garden.
when I was there buying some things from you at the event, I had some stuff that hadn't sprouted, so I was like, I'll just buy them here, give myself a little head start, so.
Usually the second and third Saturday, I do a tower garden advanced, either novice or an advanced class. The
And-
second Saturday is a novice class, and then the third Saturday is an advanced class.
And you could find that through your Facebook, I'm guessing.
On my website.
Okay.
I think there's some are there some flyers around here for it?
Probably. The first Saturday I reserve that for farming, people that are gonna buy farms, commercial farms,
Mhm.
and, or they're getting the inner workings of the farm. So, we're got interests all over the world, working on stuff in Dubai, India, Thailand, Italy, France. I mean, we have inquiries all over the world. And again, a lot of these things, what's the biggest commodity we all are gonna probably be paying for?
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you why I got a raise when my sons all moved out of the house.
Yes. But what's the thing that we're all gonna be really wanting to really covet?
Water.
Fresh water, clean water. You look at all over the world, different, India, there's a water shortage. I mean,
California, there's a water shortage.
even though they're saying there's not a water shortage, but they still have other major water issues. I mean, in California, they're using the effluent water from Chevron plant there as their water for their crops. Cause our government again says that's okay. So really, again, as you pursue this, and you look at the things that work well for you, even the foods that work better for your gut health, and staying away from that dirty dozen, it's hard, cause I love strawberries, and most strawberries they're still being sprayed, even when they cross the border. They're all coming out of California, so they're still getting sprayed, so you still gotta wash them,
Exactly.
alright? Other questions? Great. Well, we really appreciate you coming, taking your time out, and there's a lot you can do.
Absolutely.
Very good.
We encourage you, you are what you eat. I firmly believe
That
that.
is so true.
All right? There's no drug I can give you that's gonna fix that. There's things I can help the gut along, but it comes down to what you're putting in your body, in and on your body. So I wish you the best of that. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you.